Hey pioneers, and welcome back. Last week we started this huge aluminum factory. The objective is doing tons of it, so hopefully we don't need to ever do this again. I don't know, maybe we end up needing a little bit more closer to the end game, but who knows. We already have the whole first segment of the factory and the train station up and running, so let's continue with the next module. Let's do the silica. According to the design, we need 59.05 assemblers, and we are doing this factory divided into three. Each train station has 3 freight terminals, so we get 3 belts with exactly the same quantity, so it's like doing 3 times the same factory. So those 59 assemblers, I'm gonna take them to 72. Because if we divide that by 3, it means groups of 24. We will have 3 groups of 24, and 24 can be easily load balanced. As you can see, we divide by 2, we divide by 2, we divide by 2, and we divide by 3. And the idea is making them fit somewhere around here. Might be challenging, there's not too much space, but well, let's try. Let's see how it goes. Well, it was way harder than expected. I tried to do it on this space, but there wasn't enough space. I couldn't do it without doing ugly clipping, so I did it on the other side, as an extremely tall tower. And keeping the load balancing here was quite challenging. So, well, let's break it down a little bit. Each of these floors has 6 assemblers, and each of our sub-modules was of 24. That means that 4 floors are 1 module. So, to start, I made a blueprint that contains only 3 assemblers that are load balanced from here. As you can see, this splitter over here is splitting among 3, taking that side, and into the lift. And the same for the one that's a little bit taller. So, from each module of 4 floors, I always enter through the 3rd one. So, it would be right over here. This is the main input of one material. It immediately gets split into 2. So this will go to floors 1 and 2, and that will go to floors 3 and 4. So this one over here gets split into 2, to floor 4 and to floor 3. And then on floor 3 I got 1 splitter taking it to this blueprint, and the other one goes to that blueprint. Then the easy path would be going right here. This goes only to floor 4. So we have 1 splitter taking it into that blueprint and that blueprint. And if we follow the other path, the first splitter that's taken into floors 1 and 2, we first get to another splitter that divides it into floor 1 and floor 2. And then the same thing, we have 1 splitter taking it into one blueprint and into the other blueprint. And finally, this one goes again to 1 splitter, taking it into 1 blueprint. Oh, this is not a blueprint, but well, 3 assemblers and 3 assemblers. All of that would be 1 material that's fed from this side, and the other material is exactly the same, but made from the other side. So yeah, I managed to keep it load balanced, but it was challenging. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I don't know why I make this to myself, but I have fun. Now, one tip I wanted to give, I think I never talked about this on the channel, but how do I set the clock? To begin with, there's something that you need to know, is that on percentage, you have more decimals than on units. So here you will have more resolution. They both represent the same number. I don't know why they cut a decimal from here. It's kind of annoying. But well, how did I figure out that I needed 82.0106%? It's actually extremely easy. This, you can make math over here. So I know that the whole silica part of my factory needs to produce 3,100 silica. And I know that I'm placing 72 machines. So I divide it by 72, enter, and that gives you the clock rate. So it was a game changer when I realized that you can get all of the numbers extremely fast. Just get the total amount of materials you want, divide it by the amount of machines you want, and there you go. But well, I don't know if I wanted to mention something else. I think that covers the silica creation. That it ended up being higher than my power plant. But well, it looks nice. I'm happy with the result. Decorating it will be challenging because we don't have much space over there, but well, I'll figure something out. So, now we have the last segment of the factory to make, the foundries that will be making our ingots. So let's get into that. And I ran up into the first design error. It's funny that I didn't realize this. When I had the factory, I said, well, let's divide it by 3. Mainly because, well, I was going to divide it by trains. Most of the division is done by trains. And this number of limestone, this number of quartz, this number of bauxite and coal, if you divide it by 3, you've got less than 780, meaning it can be carried by one belt. What I didn't notice are these numbers from here. If you divide that by 3, you have more than 1,000. So each of these factories can't carry the output in one belt. Each one has to carry it in 2 belts. So, I mean, you have to think this like one factory, that I'm making 3 smaller factories out of this, and 3 smaller factories out of this. And I was expecting them to carry 1 output belt each. They will be carrying 2 output belts each. What's the deal with that? Here I planned to place 45 foundries, meaning each smaller factory would be of 15 foundries. But if I've got 15 foundries, I can't feed 2 belts into them because I can't load balance. Or maybe you can, but it's really hard. So I will be raising this number to 48, because if we do 48 divided by 3 means 16. Each factory will have 16 foundries, and 16 foundries you can feed them with 2 belts. One belt goes to 8, the other belt goes to 8. So well, it's just a little bit more foundries, but I will have to bear in mind that it's kind of annoying that I will end up having 6 belts going into this and 6 belts going into that. I was expecting 3 and 3. But well, shit happens. Let's go and play some foundries. There we go. A lot of foundries aligned to our blenders. So let me give you some extra information about how I do that, how I do this. How did I manage to get all of them equally spaced in front of the blenders? Well, it's basically, I use a lot of the painted beam. So let's start by measuring a blender. It's 18 meters. And I have a 2-meter gap between them. So I've got 18 blenders, that each one of them are 18 meters, plus a gap of 2 meters, but we have 17 of those. Because there's, I mean, if you have 3 materials, there's 2 gaps between them. So you have to take that into consideration. So this is the total length of my blenders. Now let's check how much a foundry takes. A foundry is 10 meters. And I place them in 2 levels. So I've got 24 on the lower level and 24 on the higher level. So that would be, I already forgot, was it 10 meters? Yes, 10 meters. So that would be minus 10 meters times the amount of foundries, that is 24. This is the gap that I have to leave between all of those foundries. Now, as I have 24 foundries, I need 23 gaps. So divided 23 is 5.13. We can't make the 1.3. We can make the 5. So just to get an idea, how much would the rest be? I do 0.13 times the amount of foundries is 3 meters. I'm gonna have 3 meters of error. That's why if we see where this starts and this one starts, from one place is only 1 meter and from the other place is 2 meters. And all of them are equally spaced 5 meters that we can check over here. 5 meters, 5 meters, and well, and so on. So that's how I usually space stuff. I measure them with the ruler. I call it the ruler because it's amazing to measure stuff. And then I do a little bit of math. You need to take into consideration that if you have 10 machines, there are 9 gaps between those machines. But well, stuff. I don't know if somebody cares about that, but that's how I achieve this. So we got all of the foundries on 2 levels, and this is an extremely easy load balancer because they are groups of 8. So you can see that this tower splits between that tower from there and that tower from there. And each one of these takes them to, well, 2 foundries. So, yeah. And, well, we have 3 groups of these because everything is done 3 times on this factory I've made. I already made one of the connections. That would be the aluminum crap. So we can see that each module has 6 blenders, so we need to take 3 blenders to the top level and 3 blenders to the bottom level. So we can see, for example, that these 3 blenders are going to this load balancer on the bottom, and the other 3 blenders are going to the load balancer on the top. Through the... Oh! I forgot something over here. There we go. These 3 blenders are being merged and go to the load balancer on the top. The other load balancer, this is where the silica would arrive, and it's pointing the other way because this, well, this will be a problem. I think I can do it that way. But let's show another one just in case. This would go to the belt bus. So that tower is going to take the silica this way, and it's going to be taken into these load balancers that are facing already the belt bus. So yeah, we have done every single machine. Now there's a lot to be done before this thing is able to start. But let's start by doing the interconnection between each of these modules. We have over here a lot of belts that are currently being sunk. All of these need to go to the machine they need to go. I also need to take the sulfur that comes from over here. The sulfur will be connected to the load balancer here on the beginning. Over there, that's where the sulfur goes. And I still need to gather the limestone. That the limestone were these 4 nodes that are somewhere around that place. I want to take a belt, well, several belts, but well, I guess that I will have to extend the belt bus randomly into that direction. So well, there's a lot of stuff to be done. Let's start by interconnecting all of these modules. There we go. A lot of stuff has been done. For starters, I shut down the power grid of this new factory because as I'm connecting everything, I didn't want the materials getting into the factory. It's load balance. It should start from 0 to 100 the moment I turn it on. So I enjoy seeing that. So for the time being, all of the trains are dead and we won't be seeing any material. I did add this over here. If you remember, I'm taking 4 bauxite nodes, but I also had an MK2 miner taking bauxite from here, 600 bauxite. So I upgraded that to a Mark III, and the bauxite got directly to the desert, and I'm taking it with a smart splitter. So this would be 180 bauxite that, well, it piled up. There's more over here. And it's already aligned to a splitter that splits it into 3 and remerges them with the train station. Oh, I also shuffled the train stations because they weren't in a good order. So when I start the factory, I would have to connect this one over there. Then I moved the raw quartz station to be over here. And we can see that I'm taking the 3 inputs to my huge tower. That would be one, that would be the other one, and the third one has to go lower. 3 inputs, 6 outputs. Over here we can see all of the outputs. Some are merged from below, some are merged from higher up, and they go to this build bus that it's absolutely filled up, and it's a new one. This layer is from the limestone. The limestone is coming from over there. All of that is new. And I'm taking it over here to this side. And these are my 3 limestone inputs. So, well, over here we would have the bauxite, the coal, and already the 6 lines of silica. And I'm taking them to each of the load balancers. So everything is connected. Now regarding the limestone, I'm taking it from 4 nodes, and each one of them has a different rate, different amount of materials. So I had to do another load balancer. Oh, well, usually this is called belt balancer. I think it's a load balancer because you're balancing the loads, but well, this usually on the community is called a belt balancer. Each of the inputs it's divided into 3 because we want 3 outputs. And as usual, I do it at different heights to make my life easier. So, regarding the outputs, I ended up having 4 belts because we have... This is the amount of aluminum ingots divided by 3 is more than a Mark 5 belt. So divided by 4 is 620. So each of these belts will be carrying 620 and currently being sent to a sink. Whenever I want to use them, I will have to add a smart splitter and we'll take it to this belt bus. That's pretty full. But well, stuff that happens. Finally, the last connection is the sulfur that was over here. Yep, that's already connected. We are not seeing sulfur because everything is in a different grid. The moment I turn it on, the sulfur will start arriving to this zone. Let's go and check that out. So this is my belt bus that it's gathering coal for my power plant, I think it was this, for my rocket fuel. And the sulfur is actually nearby. But well, I started taking a belt and it wasn't tidy. So I simply extended my belt bus and that was a little bit of work. But well, it goes all the way high up to this mountain, which is actually useful because there are materials over there. So I can, in the future, if I need something, I already have this connection. So that would be the sulfur miner that's taking 620, I think. Probably I took note of that. Yeah, 620 back to our factory. And doing this, I found a hole with a cave and a summer sloop and a big spider. So it was not all for nothing. I've got one more summer sloop. So, well, all of the funny stuff has been made. And now I have to do what I consider to be the least good activity. Wow, I need to learn English. But well, connecting everything to the power grid, it's extremely boring. I even prefer decorating. Decorating is not that bad, I enjoy it. But placing wires, but well, let's connect everything to the power grid. Power connections are done, and we are ready to turn this bad boy on. I also added some power storage. This is needed to easily know if everything is working at 100%, but we'll go over that later on. So how do we turn this thing on? Well, the first step is actually turning it on. So it's this one over there. Now it's working. Then we need to initialize the water. So I turn the initializer and we need to dump some packaged water that I already prepared for the occasion. Well, there's some extra water. I'll dump it later. So the water is already going. We are initializing that closed loop. Then there's a couple things more we have to do. I stopped one train, the other are working, but this one I turned off the auto drive. So let me turn this guy on. Turn on self-driving. And finally we have to connect the 180 bauxite. That would be somewhere around here. So the bauxite will be the first material to arrive, but this is only a tiny percentage of all of the bauxite we need. And we already have the limestone. Wow, that was fast. So it should start getting into my big tower. But well, the main thing that we need to wait for are the trains. We have this one that's waiting to get filled up. The one with the coal, this one is not set to leave when it's filled up because there are 2 stations and I didn't know if that would bring trouble. So probably the first train won't bring that much coal and after that the system will be fine. And the water, it's already initializing the system. Ideally we want this pipe to get absolutely filled. So well, let's wait for some trains. Okay, the coal train is arriving, but probably it barely has any coal, so this doesn't count. The next one will be the important one. And we already have a bauxite. This one should be absolutely filled up. Yep, it is. I don't know why there's one more over here, but yeah, it's probably the next time it arrives it has one less because it's load balanced. So now the bauxite will start filling up the factory. There we go. Bauxite is on the way and a little bit of coal. So, well, we're still missing the quartz and let's check on the sulfur because it's coming from far away. Oh, we already have sulfur. So the sulfur has already arrived and it's being load balanced between all of the machines. We are only missing the raw quartz. Hey, the train is moving. We are really close to the factory working, hopefully at 100% once this train arrives, because the cold one probably just did a couple of loops, so we should be good with coal. And off it goes. And now, the moment it enters the tower, we should already see the 6 output lines of silica starting to work immediately. So let's give it a couple of seconds. And there we go. Silica is online. We are still missing the higher levels. So in theory, all of these machines should be working at 100%. Oh! There's something wrong in here. What's the problem with these guys? They are missing limestone. Where's the limestone? Over here, I missed that connection. Okay, they are green. So let's check all of them. This level is correct. That level is correct. This one is fine. That one is fine. Yep. Whoa, another error over here. This one is missing the raw quartz. Where's my quartz? Over here. And I'm missing a bolt. So that's green, that's green, that's green, and that's green. Nice. So let's do a quick check on all of the refineries. We have some on yellow. What's going on over here? This only needs sulfur and water, and we have sulfur and water. And they are filled up. I think that might have been a bug. I've seen this before, that when you are far away they turn on yellow, but then they go green, because all of these have way more materials than they need. Oh, maybe they can't deliver the sulfuric acid. That could be a thing. All of the blenders, they are all on green. They have plenty of materials. Of course, as this is load balance, we shouldn't have an excess of materials, but as they arrived at different stages, at the beginning this can happen. I usually later go and clear the buffers so that we don't see full belts. But, well, it seems like it has everything it needs and it's able to deliver all of its products. The last stage of the factory are all of the foundries. Oh, I can't easily see the light. But well, there is still to be all green, and there are my aluminum ingots. So I think this was a huge success. Oh, these are the initializers, so I don't have to mind those. I could actually shut it down so that it doesn't annoy me. Because yellow is scary, we don't want to see yellow. So let's shut it down. I actually added this switch over here because if I keep them on, then the max consumption will never be the same as the consumption, and that triggers me. So how do we know how all of this is working? Are these batteries charged? And they have some juice. We can shut the factory down. And now over here we can see the factory consumption. Look at that! Consumption is equal to max consumption, meaning that at least for now, everything is working at 100%. We could wait a couple of minutes to see if there's something weird. But well, that's one of the things I love about load balancing, is that it's already working at 100%. The only thing I had to wait for were the trains. But well, that's because I'm working on trains. Is it worth load balancing because of this? No, definitely not, but I really enjoy it. This factory is at 100%. I'll wait a little bit and check if there's something weird. Nope, it seems that everything is correct. Wow, this was a huge success. I was expecting more troubles to show how I troubleshoot factory, but well, I had a couple of assemblers that weren't connected, but all of the rest in the first go, that must be a record. So let's turn it back on. And we've got a happy factory. One thing I wanted to check is, for example, right now, we are about to run out of coal. Where is the coal train? The coal train should be about to arrive, so we should be getting coal anytime soon, or these machines will stop. Ah! And the coal just arrived. It shut down for a couple of seconds because, well, the train is bringing exactly the amount of coal we need, and the trains come in batches. So there might be a timing issue. Right now, we had a whole batch, so this buffer should get completely filled up. And ideally the coal should arrive before this machine stops. I'll wait another cycle to see what's going on. Maybe I have to change something with that train, because bauxite seems to be okay. Okay, the coal train has just departed, and we still have plenty of coal. This is filled up, and we can see that the belts have completely filled up. So ideally we want the train to arrive before we run out of coal. Let's see if we can make it, or if I have to change something on the design. The water train stopped the coal one. Maybe that delay brings issues? Feels like we're not going to make it again. It was the water interfering with the coal one. And we have stopped. How far away was the coal? It was pretty far away. But well, I guess that over some time this should auto-compensate, because as the train took longer to arrive, that means that the next time it comes it will bring more coal than the last one. So all in all, it should work. I don't know. I'll have to investigate this a little bit. But it seems that we are kind of okay. Kind of. Okay, it's all sorted out. It's been working non-stop for some time now. And I actually didn't have to change anything. So what was the issue? The trains are bringing exactly the same amount of materials we need. So if a train gets delayed 1 second, because for example it crosses at the path with another train, for some seconds the machines will stop. But how do you solve that? Well, you only solve it adding a little bit of materials, extra materials, so that it simply has a buffer. And it's not that I actually added coal to the line. What I did was I removed the sulfur. I went through all of these blenders, the bauxite. I removed all of the bauxite, and that stopped the machines for a little bit. And as we are getting exactly the same amount of coal that we need, just shutting the machines for a small amount of time makes us have more coal. So right now, by the time the train arrives, there's like 40 to 50 coal, and that helps like a buffer. Because it's confirmed that we are getting all of the throughput. All of the machines, all of the coal that I'm mining is getting here. It only might come at different frequencies depending on what the trains want to do. So just leaving a tiny amount of extra materials gives us that breathing space. And now everything has been working non-stop. This is completely filled up because probably the coal train is far away. Well, it's about to arrive, so it should be close to drying up. We can see that the coal line... Well, there's plenty of coal still. Where does it end? There we go. It's about to end. That's the last coal. And when the train arrives and the coal gets in, it won't stop. It was just a synchronization issue that probably would have solved by itself if I simply waited, because every machine stopping means that you get extra materials, because the train can transmit all of the throughput that has been tested. So this was actually quite interesting. I learned a little bit, and well, everything is working and it looks beautiful. I'm really glad with the result. So well, now I have to decorate. And I don't know how long the video, maybe I'm doing a long video, but well, I'll do a fast tour of the decorated factory. Let's get on decorating. And the factory is complete. And it's looking quite good. So I didn't did too much regarding decorations. For example, I thought about closing this building, but I like seeing the machines, and it's also less time. So I just added some lights on the middle, columns on the splitters, and I used the same stairs for our power station to get to all of the levels, and well, I had to extend them a little bit. Then on this zone over here, I supported the floor with a frame foundation and concrete pillars, as I usually do. Added some lights. Same for this foundry part. some lights, some columns, but mostly what I've been doing. Didn't do anything too creative. Now let's see if there's something else. Well, this is pretty cool. I supported the load balancer with this structure and I used it to squeeze some power storage. Now, around here we should have the factory stats. 2500 aluminum ingots. I think this is going to help a lot and I'll be able to progress in the game quite easy with this amount. Consuming 4.3 gigawatts, it's kind of a lot, but well, we have power, so let's use it. And I ended up with a cutoff time of 1.33 hours. And that wraps up the video for today. I'm loving how this whole mega factory is looking. It really is a big industrial city. I'm pretty glad with the results so far, and we will keep on expanding. The factory must grow. So, well, please remember to support the channel either by a like or a comment, or both. Both would be even better. Even if you don't know what to comment, just tell me, I don't know, how long have you been playing Satisfactory for? I've been playing since update 8 in early access, but it wasn't non-stop. I took like 1 year break when they started talking about 1.0 release. I simply decided to stop because I knew that I was going to start over, so I never finished the game in early access. Got to the end of phase 3 and I started back the moment 1.0 released. What about you? I hope you guys had fun and I'll see you on the next one.